Are you ready? Let's do this.
Hello, family. Welcome back to another episode, this week's episode of The Gold Corner. Again, you guys are probably going to think I sound like a broken record, but I just want to thank everybody for all the love and support. Again, as I mentioned, every week our audience keeps growing, and that is just amazing because our children are being talked about. We are spreading childhood cancer awareness, which is very, very important, especially coming up in September, which is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. So we are trying to do our part, and just these parents, I can't thank them enough. The parents that have already spoken about their children, and the parents that are going to be coming up also. So again, just want to say thank you very much. And this week, every week is special, but this week, you always hear me say this phrase, and I say it over and over, and I will say it over and over again. Childhood cancer is not a St. Jude commercial. And the reason why I'm saying this week's episode is a little special, well, very special at that, is because I actually have the pleasure of speaking to a family who was treated at St. Jude. So they will be able to give us a little more insight on all of this. I had the opportunity to meet Brandi a couple of years ago through the Bereaved Parents page. We did send some messages back and forth. Of course, like any parent that has gone through it, it's been very difficult. And this support group that's on there, you know, you could just get in there and say what you want to say, and other parents will respond. And that's how I connected with this beautiful family from Oakland, Maryland. So again, I want to introduce, I have Brandi and Matt Blythe. Did I say that correct? All right. So Brandi and Matt, I just want to welcome you to the Gold Corner. Thank you guys. I did follow Bentley's journey throughout everything, and even afterwards. And beautiful baby boy, we can't wait to hear his story. So once again, thank you so much for accepting to be on the Gold Corner and being able to spread and speak about your warrior, as he was and as he is a warrior that we need to continue telling his story for all the people to hear. So once again, Brandi and Matt, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
I was thrilled to hear that you started this. I just love that, first of all, because our children, they do need talked about. So many people are afraid to hurt, like to bring our children up, and like that's the one thing we want. Like, please talk about our kids. Like, they existed, they were here. Like, we don't just move on. We never move on. So I'll start from the beginning. My son Bentley, our son Bentley, he was 3.5 years old, and we just got back from a family vacation. We went to Virginia Beach, and everything was perfect. Best time ever. I mean, we did water slides, the ocean, amusement parks, zoos, everything. And we get back, I mean, he was fine. And a week or two later, he woke up and he just started throwing up. And we're like, okay, you know, his stomach's upset, you know, but he just kept throwing up and throwing up. And after a day or two, I mean, he couldn't even swallow an ice chip without throwing it right back up. He had no other symptoms, just throwing up, like no headaches, nothing. So we take him to the doctor, and the doctor's like, oh, he's fine, it's just a bug. Well, it got so bad, he was like getting dehydrated. I mean, he was like dark underneath his eyes. We take him to the ER, they run tests, they're like, there's nothing wrong with him.
Just give him fluids and stuff. And
yeah.
Yeah, nothing.
Send us on our way. We take him back to the doctor. The doctor's like, I have no answers for you. There's nothing wrong with him. So I knew something in my gut. I knew something wasn't right. I'm like, something is going on. So we finally drove an hour away to this children's hospital. They admitted him. He just looked so weak. And they ran all these tests, and they're like, he's fine. They're like, finally the second day, they're like, can we do a CAT scan of his brain? And I'm like, why?
We actually had to initiate that. They didn't really want to do it at first.
Yeah. They were like, he doesn't need the extra radiation or anything. I was like, no, if you think you know, he needs a CAT scan, do it. And they're like, you're fine with it? And I'm like, yes, I just want to know what's wrong with my kid. So they did it, and boom, there was a big tumor. Like, what size? Bigger than a little golf ball? And the reason, he had no headaches at this time. The reason why he was throwing up is because it was in the back of the head where no fluid could go through the spine, and it was making him severely nauseous. So right away they had to do surgery. I mean,
the next morning,
they're like, we have to get this out. He was in surgery.
Morgantown, West Virginia, at Ruby Hospital. It was Dr. Kaiser was her name. She's great doctor.
Mm-hmm.
She was really nice to us, let us know the whole time what was going to happen, you know, and side effects that could happen and whatnot. But she did the surgery, and it took, 14 hours?
Yeah, the longest 14 hours of my life.
It was an all-day thing. You know, it started at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and we were there till, you know, sitting in the waiting room, just wondering what was going on for hours and hours and worrying to death, you know. We'd send updates, or we'd call for updates, and they kept saying everything's going okay. Just be patient, you know. Then, she came out eventually in the evening, and there's nobody left in the waiting room. We actually had to switch waiting rooms because the waiting room had closed.
Yeah.
But she comes out at like 10 o'clock at night and said that everything went great.
He had a small stroke during surgery.
She got all the tumor out. Looked good, you know. We knew he was going to have a long recovery in front of him. But he, you know, when he woke up, he lost his balance completely.
Couldn't walk.
I guess that's common with brain surgeries anyway, but he couldn't see very well. We had to leave a patch on his eye. We kind of moved it from eye to eye for several weeks.
Yeah. But the one thing he did, he ate 5 bananas right in a row. Because he was so hungry, and kept it down. And he was just so happy he could eat again and keep it down. I mean, he ate everything in sight, didn't he? Yeah. And he was in all this pain, but he was so happy to eat, and he still had the biggest smile on his face. I'll never forget that.
You could tell the headaches were gone.
Yeah, the nausea was gone.
Felt better,
yeah, but he did have a long road ahead of him. But I'll tell you what, like, having major brain surgery, boy, nothing kept that kid down. Like, kids are so much stronger than we give them credit for. My gosh, I mean, he was up and out of that bed, crawling and trying to walk, and I'm just like, I couldn't even.
Yeah, we were asleep one night.
It was crazy.
Like a day after the surgery.
Yeah.
He climbed out of bed on his own and found his way to the bathroom.
Yeah.
He had to hold on to stuff because he couldn't.
And, you know, he has a patch on his eye, and, you know, he just had a stroke, and he's still trying to get to the bathroom on his own. I was like, Bentley, let me help you. Like, he was just amazing. He was so amazing. So after surgery,
We spent, a week and a half in the hospital?
Yeah. Well, they sent away the tumor, and we found out in a day or two what he had was anaplastic ependymoma grade 3. It's not a very rare, it's pretty rare, but if you're going to get it, it happens a lot in small young males. So we felt comfortable. We knew he needed radiation. We didn't know about chemo, but we felt comfortable reaching out to a bigger hospital for that, because where the radiation needed to be on the brain, it needed to be precise.
Plus, we talked to the doctors and we trusted them and everything, but they even told us that they had not dealt with ependymoma very much. So, you know, naturally, any parent would want to take their kid to the best place available. So, when we got home, which we actually got home a day before his 5th birthday, or 4th birthday, so he got to come home and celebrate with that. I guess that was a good thing. But I tried calling and ended up emailing the St. Jude brain tumor facility.
And other ones too. Hopkins.
Yeah, John Hopkins. We had talked to a couple of different hospitals, Washington Children's Hospital. I'm thinking we might even called Sloan and Kettering at one time, but
St. Jude,
St. Jude, they got back with us within an hour or two with an email. And of course, in the email, I explained what he had, what he was diagnosed with, and asked what they could do for us. And they got back with me right away and said that they wanted us to come down for a visit as soon as possible and basically take him on as a patient. So about, 2 days later, we just packed up, us and the kids, and drove to Memphis. It's 800 miles away. Took about 12 hours to get there. We got there in the middle of the night and stayed there the night and met with the doctors the next day.
And the thing, like, St. Jude, I will say, St. Jude is like Disney World of hospitals.
Oh, it's a great
really is. I mean, celebrities are there all the time. We met awesome basketball players. There's always someone there.
Yeah, Houston Rockets came to visit.
Yeah,
Memphis Grizzlies.
And every day they were like giving out prizes. I mean, they gave Bentley like this $800 suitcase. I mean, they were giving out kids these $800 suitcases.
The whole city of Memphis completely supports St. Jude. I mean,
we can get to go to the zoo for free, the Children's Museum for free. We got to go to Disney on Ice for free. Like, I mean, it was a vacation.
Graceland went there.
We got to go to Elvis's house. I mean, it was great.
Plus, the hospital just has such great people. I mean, I don't know who does the hiring there, but props to them. You know, they all really care about their kids and their jobs.
They do.
It's not like a regular hospital where people are just putting in their time. You could tell everybody really cared about kids and wanted them to get better. But
the first day we were there, though, we met his doctors, and I'll never forget this. The doctor said, "Your son has an 85% chance of beating this." And he said, "I like those odds." And I said, "Well, I do too." And I just felt like he was going to be fine. I'm like, we had to do 33 rounds of radiation, Monday through Friday. Once we were done, we got to go home and we could live our life again. We just had to get through those 33 rounds. He had to be sedated every day, be put to sleep, do radiation. He had physical therapy while he was there, speech therapy. I mean, he was getting all the treatment he needed to get better from his brain surgery too. And he loved it. Like on weekends, he would beg to go back to the hospital. I mean, he loved it there. He also felt good too. For a kid that went through radiation, he felt great. But there's tons of wagons there, like kid wagons. But you would see parents dragging their kids in these wagons, and they would be so sick. Missing limbs, half of a head gone, and there's barf bags everywhere. I mean, you would see kids just puking, and
it's not what you see on TV.
It's a war zone. It's a war zone.
Instagram.
There's tons of kids.
They're suffering.
There's so many sick kids. It makes you sick. I mean, before my son got cancer, I was like, oh, it's so rare for a kid to get cancer. It's only in adults and older people. I mean, I was very uneducated. And to see all these kids at St. Jude and how sick, a lot of them didn't make it. And the images I have in my head of these awful kids and what they went through, it was heartbreaking. But so we did the 33 rounds of radiation, and
we come back for a couple weeks before we started everything, and basically packed up and moved again. Took all of our stuff with us. I took some time off work,
and it was hard because we had to leave our 10-year-old daughter home
because she had school.
So she stayed with my mom and dad. That was so I didn't get to see her for 2.5 months. That was so hard. Thank goodness for FaceTime, because I would have lost it. We just spent the time we needed with our son and did what we had to do. And we just kept thinking, we just got to get through this. And there was they didn't know exactly how to treat it. So there was other kids that had the exact same thing as Bentley. They had to do chemo, but they had other kids not do chemo, which Bentley didn't have to do chemo. And
there's a couple of different protocols, but basically them not knowing for sure how to cure it, they're just trying different things, different types of stuff, and you basically, it was a flip of a coin whether or not you got chemo.
Yeah.
Which, you know, we weren't real sure we wanted chemo anyway because we know what it does to people and what it does
I was
to
happy
kids.
about it.
So,
I was happy.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know a kid today, you know, he survived it. He did the chemo after radiation, and he's the same age as Bentley, and he's doing fine. You know, still keep in contact. He's doing great. So we did the 33 rounds. We came home. Life was great again. I'm like, okay, you know, we got our son back. Everything's fine.
By the time this was over, you know, he had different types of therapy there too. He had like speech therapy, the vision stuff, physical therapy. So, you know, this time he's slowly getting better and better. He's walking around on his own now.
Yeah.
He
was back to a normal kid.
Yeah.
He got to go to pre-K.
Yeah.
Got so many girlfriends. So many girlfriends. I mean, he loved school so much. He was so happy to go to school.
And when we came back, he was the center of attention everywhere we went.
Yeah, because we live in a very small community. Everyone knew Bentley the Brave. Bentley the Brave. I mean, it was
amazing support from our
amazing.
From our town.
Our community is the best. So
if I go somewhere by myself, they, you know, everybody'd ask, "You're Bentley's dad, right?"
Yeah.
So, you know,
my daughter, she was like,
one.
"I'm famous because of my brother," and I was like, "Oh my gosh." But so he was doing fine, feeling great. We had to go back 3 months later for an MRI scan. And the thing is, you know, St. Jude will fly one parent and the kid for free. But, you know, me and Matt both wanted to go. But my community would come together and pay for my ticket so we all three could be. So we went down to St. Jude. We did an MRI, came back clean. Everything was good. We went home. We had Christmas. Best Christmas ever. Then I just got this we weren't supposed to come back for another 3 months. And all of a sudden, they're like, we need you to come back in 2 months. And I'm like, why do they want us back a month early? And I kept saying how weird that was. And I had this horrible gut feeling again, I was really, really nervous. So we go down there, and I was like, I feel like they did see something on the last scan, but they didn't want to ruin our Christmas. I really believe that. So they did the scan, boom, yep, there's a tumor. There's a small tumor growing back. And I was like, I knew it. So they couldn't operate right away, because they couldn't do radiation right away. They know radiation gets rid of it in surgery. But since he had it not too long ago, they have to wait a certain amount of time. So they're like, let's do chemo to help either shrink the tumor or just make it stay the same size, and to buy us time until we can do surgery again. I was like, okay. So we did chemo at home, like an hour away where they did the surgery. So we did 2 rounds of chemo there. Went back, did an MRI, and the tumor just got bigger. And there was another one. Yeah,
there was a couple of small tumors around it too. It was basically growing back quicker.
The chemo did nothing.
You know, we went to, this time when we were at St. Jude, and they went over the MRI with us. You know, they took us into a small private room, and you could just tell that something wasn't right, you know, that they didn't like what they saw and whatnot. And basically told us that there was nothing else they could do for us.
And I was like, what do you mean there's nothing else you can do? You're St. Jude. Like, there has to be something else. And they said, oh, we're doing this clinical trial, but pretty much he would just be a guinea pig. They really did not know anything. They don't know anything about the drug. They didn't know. And they said it could have done way more harm than good, and it could have killed him. To go home and think about it. So we went home.
We talked to other surgeons and stuff, and they didn't really even want to operate. They said that it's just going to hurt him and not help in the long run. You know, they talked about quality of life. He wanted him to live the rest of his life in misery, or just take care of him, let him be happy. And, basically. Of course, we wanted to do whatever we could do, but they didn't even want to operate on him. We talked to other doctors in different parts of the country and showed them the MRIs and whatnot. Clearly, nobody.
The best surgeon wouldn't touch him. They wouldn't touch him.
Yeah, his name is Dr. Boop, I think.
Dr. Boop.
He's in Memphis, and he's supposedly one of the best child brain surgeons in the country.
Yes.
And he's a good guy. We talked to him. He's very knowledgeable, but he didn't want to do the surgery, so.
We just went home.
Yeah, we basically just went home.
But Bentley acted fine. He wasn't sick, no headaches. I mean, he was feeling great. I mean, we were going to church. We were just asking for prayers. I mean, we were just. I was kind of in denial too. I was like, nothing's going to happen to my child. He's going to be fine. He's acting fine. Nothing's going to happen to my kid.
Yeah, the whole time, I mean, we're worried to death, but you never really think that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Even then, after coming back home, we expected a miracle, I guess.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get a miracle. And I was like, we're good people. We do the right thing. God's going to give us a miracle. And then all of a sudden, Bentley's head started killing him. It started getting worse and worse and worse. Before the headaches got worse, though, we did get to take him on his Make-A-Wish trip to Disney, and he got to meet Mickey, and that was just like everything to him. And he wasn't sick the whole week there, and I'm very thankful he got to have that.
Yeah, he's a huge Mickey Mouse fan. So
yeah, and a huge SpongeBob fan too.
Yeah, we went and met SpongeBob, and you could just tell it was
seeing a kid's eyes light up, seeing like their dream come true is like the best thing ever. It was just, I still can't get his face out of my mind.
That was the thing, at least one thing that we have to be thankful for. I mean, he was sick in the beginning, obviously, and with the surgery, a lot of recovery, and of course, he was pretty sick at the end. But the rest of the time, 8-9 months there, he was great. He was happy as could be. He was back to his normal self. He was hanging out with other kids, going to school. Yeah, he lost his hair, but everybody treated him really good. He was a pretty happy kid, and he touched a lot of lives, especially around town. I mean, obviously with you, we've gotten to know a lot of people all over the country and met a lot of good people.
But anyway, the headaches, they got really bad, really, really bad. Like morphine wasn't touching it. We get him into the hospital. They did another MRI, and I mean, his head's just full of tumors. I mean, just so many tumors, and they put a shunt in his head to relieve some pressure, and they take us in a room, the surgeon and doctors, and they sit us down, and they were like, there's nothing to do, you gotta go home on hospice. And I was like, no, I don't accept it. You fix my kid now. And they were like, Brandi, there's nothing else. And I was like, I'll pay you as much money as you want. Call the best doctors that you know. Just please help. They were sobbing. I mean, I was sobbing. They were sobbing. They felt so bad. And
our surgeon actually said that
she wanted to quit.
Yeah, she wanted to quit her job because it's sad to see this happen
yeah.
to kids, you know.
Yeah. So we go home, and how long did he live?
I don't know.
At home on hospice.
10 days maybe.
And he was in so much pain the entire time, and he was so drugged up. He had a few seizures, and the night we went to bed, I knew that was going to be my last night with him.
We actually had a whole day there at the end where he was probably pretty much brain dead, where he was still breathing, but he would take 3 breaths a minute, something like that.
Oh, it was awful. But the thing is, his heart was so strong. That's the thing. These kids, they're healthy everywhere else. Their hearts are so strong. He didn't want to give up. And we're laying in bed with him. Bentley's in between us, and I knew he was going, and he was holding on. I said, Bentley, you can let go now. Like, you don't have to hold on. And he went.
Yeah, it was about 8 o'clock in the morning.
8 o'clock?
We made it through the night, and we both woke up.
We laid in bed and just held him until he started getting cold. And the thing is, these kids, they're not passing peacefully. It is torture. The things I had to see my son go through, gasping for air, help, like begging for help.
Getting delusional and
it's so sickening and hard.
Can't eat, can't drink.
Yeah, you're throwing up. It's not a peaceful thing. It's not peaceful.
2 or 3 weeks was awful. It was horrible.
It's something that no parent should ever have to see. You know, there's orphans, there's widowers, but there's nothing for parents that has lost a child. There's no name for us because it's not supposed to happen. And cancer, it's the devil. It's sickening, and it's not a St. Jude commercial. It's not bald kids smiling, and it's not. And there's so many kids that have cancer, and I just wish more people was aware of it. And we need more funding. Only 4%. There's so many things. These brilliant doctors, they don't know what to do to these kids because there's no funding. There's no research. There's nothing. We need more help, people. I mean, we just need more help. But so we lost our son, and it was trauma. He's been gone. June 15th will make 2 years. And we always talked about, I mean, we have a daughter, Brooklyn. She's 12. We always talked about having a third kid, but then once Bentley got sick, we're like, screw that. No. Kids are so stressful enough. No. But then about a year, you know, I knew I still had some more love to give, and my house was so empty. And like me and Matt, we talked about like, what you know, let's try.
Yeah, what are we going to do now? I mean, our daughter's in school, and
it was so quiet in the house. And my son, and I know this sounds weird, but I always say my son was my soulmate. I mean, yes, my husband's my soulmate, but this kid, like, he was me. He was my soulmate. I mean, we did everything together.
Kid you could possibly imagine.
We never had to yell at him or ground him. He was just such a sweet, kind-hearted kid.
He'd come running out to the living room, and if I was sleeping, he would whisper and be quiet, you know, and shh, Daddy's sleeping.
We gotta be quiet, Daddy's sleeping.
And he always wanted to do magic tricks for us, which is funny.
And he did really bad magic tricks, but it was the cutest thing ever.
Yeah, he would hide something like this big in his hand and say, you know, which hand's it in?
He was so funny. But anyways, we decided we're going to try for a very short time to have another child. If it, you know, he's 41, I'm 36. If it doesn't happen, it wasn't meant to be. First month, boom, baby. And we had another little boy. And when I found out I was pregnant, and then when I found out I was having a boy, I felt guilty. Like, I remember going to Bentley's grave, and I said, Bentley, are you mad at me? Like, I hope you don't think I'm trying to take your place. Like, please don't think that. Like, please. Like, I mean, it was a really tough thing I went through. Like, being pregnant and hormonal and grieving. I mean, it was so hard. But I am very, very thankful for our son. And I believe Bentley and God gave this little boy to us. I really believe it. And you know what's crazy? Bentley passed at 8 o'clock on the dot. My new son was born at 8 o'clock on the dot. And I just think that is so crazy. So crazy. But that's our story. Do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay.
So that, you know, I don't want to speak for all other parents, but I think that a lot of parents of kids that had cancer, what you want is for your child to not be forgotten and to
talk about our children, ask about them.
We don't mind, you know, we love to talk about them. We sit and look at his pictures and videos all the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, when people ask questions, it doesn't bother us. We want to talk about it. We want other people to know what happened and what he went through and what other kids go through. And, you know, that's the point of all of this, is to spread awareness and to get people to realize that it's serious and it happens a lot, and, you know, just to get that out there.
Yeah.
Well, Matt and Brandi, this is, like I said, I followed his journey through your Facebook, and just being able to hear all these things that go behind all the stories is just amazing. He was and continues to be an amazing boy, and there's There's a lot to this story, and thank you for touching on the whole St. Jude thing, because that's one thing that I do want to get across. I do have a couple of questions, and thank you for touching on that subject, because I know there's a lot of parents, me including me. Mia was my only child, and it's been difficult for me to even think of wanting to have another child, because again, the guilt does come in and all that. So you touched on that, so I'm sure a lot of parents are going to relate to that, and a lot of parents that had children after their child passing can relate to that. And when you touched on you feeling guilty, that you feeling if Bentley was going to be upset or trying to replace him. Thank you for sharing that. I also do have another, I do have, like I said, a couple of questions. I know you have an older daughter.
Yes.
So if you can speak to us and maybe give some other parents advice, how is she handling it? Because it involves the whole family, and not only these kids obviously that have passed, but their brothers and sisters that have to live through this. It's going to be it might be a little easier for your baby boy, because you guys are going to remind him and tell him about his older brother, but she lived with him. She fought next to him. How is she handling it, and how are you guys handling it with her?
She was 10 years old when he passed. They were best friends. And I mean, when I say best friends, I'm not just saying that. They really were best friends. They did everything together.
He followed her around everywhere. He wanted to do everything she was doing. She would play, Minecraft, and he would get into Minecraft. She would watch videos like Bendy and the Ink Machine. That was a big one that he liked.
Yeah. She taught him everything.
Yeah.
And at first, when he passed, it didn't seem like she was grieving. Like, she wasn't crying. I was a little upset.
It just didn't hit her right away.
And I'm like, but then I realized, I was like, everybody grieves in their own way. Nobody grieves the same. And then a few months later, it just, bam, it hit her like a ton of bricks. Crying a lot and saying, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't live without my brother. I want Bentley. I want Bentley. She would be in school and in the middle of math class and just start crying, and would have to go to the guidance counselor all the time. She's still, after 2 years, is still crying in school.
A little over 2 years, and she still will just come out here one day and say that she misses him. And
she'll just start crying, and it's so sad. And that's another reason we decided to have another kid, is because she begged me to have one. And she wanted it to be a boy. And, she loves her new little brother with all her heart, but she still talks about Bentley 24/7. And the thing is, I've caught her in her room pretending that he's there, and she's like having conversations with him. Now that gets to me all the time, and she still does it after 2 years. So it's hard. It's very hard.
Yeah, she'll never be the same.
No,
sure, they're just like us. She's affected by it just as much as we are.
Yeah, for sure.
She constantly wants to go see him at the grave and talks to him there, and brings presents for him and stuff. She misses him a lot.
Yeah.
Well, she, wow. I mean, she's, I do believe that he comes and visits her and still plays with her from time to time. And another question that I have is how has all this been on your faith, on where you were on your faith, where you're at now? I know it's a touchy subject, and this is actually the first time I touch on it. I touched a little bit on last week's episode from this young lady, but as parents, because we get mad, we're angry, and one thing that I try to tell, that I preach a lot is it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay that we get angry. It's okay for us to get mad, for us to be happy, for us to be mad 1 second and the other second be happy. it's our new normal. It's how we're going to live. My faith was shook. My faith was rocked. But
Yes.
I decided to keep going and do what God has called me and what God has called us to do, and to spread awareness. So how has your faith played in all of this?
I'll tell you how mine is, and then he can speak on how he is, because we have different things going on right now. Okay, so we took this woman, this stranger, shows up at our house one day when Bentley was home on hospice. And no, right before hospice, Bentley was still doing fine. And but we knew there was nothing doctors could do. But Bentley was still acting fine. And, you know, I'm just like, prayers, prayers, prayers. Everybody pray, 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 you know. And this woman shows up at my house one day, and she said, God told me to just
come to you,
to come to your house and tell you to come to church tonight. There is a healer there, and he is going to heal your son. Please come. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll be there. You know, so we went, and that night, all three of us, my daughter couldn't go, but me, Matt, and Bentley, we both got baptized. We got saved. There was this healer there, and they were like talking in tongues, and they had us in a circle, and they were touching Bentley's head. They knew the exact spot the tumor was. And I had an outer body experience. It was so weird. I've never had this in my life, and I'll probably never have it again. But like, I started talking in tongues. I mean, I guess they said I did. I mean, all I know is my teeth was like chattering really hard. And then after I felt like I was going to pass out. Like, I was holding Bentley in my arms, and I felt like I was going to pass out. And once they were done praying, I walked away, and it looked like Bentley's head was glowing. It was so crazy. And I was like, am I hallucinating? You know, what is going on? Well, then and there, me and Matt's like, he got his miracle. He's fine. You know, God's going to take that cancer away. He's fine. So we really believed that he was fine, and we didn't get our miracle, of course. So I was very, very angry. I was mad at God. Every night when my daughter would go to bed and my husband would go to bed, I would go out on the porch and yell and scream up to the sky every single night. And then I would talk to Bentley and cry and cry and cry. And I stopped praying. I was so angry. And then sometimes I started talking to God, and I'm like, why did you do this? Like, I'm mad at you. And I would cuss at him. And I'm like, I don't know if I should believe in you or not. Like, you took my kid. Why couldn't you save my kid? You know, there was enough prayers out there. Why couldn't you answer this prayer? Why? So I was angry for a really, really long time. And, you know, I go to therapy and everything. I'm doing everything I can to get a little bit better, you know. And I started reaching out to God and praying and, you know, just thanking him for everything I do have and what I am blessed for and thankful for. And you know, getting my son, Jet, and him being healthy. And so I'm not quite there with God. He knows I'm mad, but he knows I love him. So that's where I'm at right now. Okay, go, Matt.
Well, you know, I'm not going to lie. I'm still struggling with it.
Well, you can say about your mom.
To even believe in God, you know, I want to, because, you know, if there is no God, then I'll never see my son again.
Yes.
You know, if all that's just make believe, and you know, I want to really bad believe that I'll see him again one day. For me, you know, I grew up in a very dedicated Christian or Catholic family. My grandparents went to church, my parents, everybody, you know, my mom was going to church every Sunday. But when I was 10 years old, she died in a car wreck. And that's kind of where my journey with God started. Like, you know, I didn't believe it. I didn't believe that God would do this to me, do this to my mom when she was devoted to him and went to church every Sunday. So I struggled with it for many years after that to begin with. I came back around, and you know, especially getting with Brandi, and she was pretty religious anyway, and you know, I believed, and especially after this incident, like she was talking about at this church, I mean, you could feel a presence there, like something was real, and we believed and believed it worked, you know. And then when he passed away anyway, it's definitely a struggle for me to believe that there's a God out there that could allow this to happen to children. You know, everybody says that God will only give you what you can handle, but you know, if that's the case, why are people out there killing themselves because something that they couldn't handle, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess in the end, you know, I don't know, I struggle with it every day. Some days I believe that there has to be a purpose for us, there has to be a reason, and I have to believe that I will see my son again, you know. But at the same time, it's a struggle. It's a cruel world, a lot of stuff going on that shouldn't be happening. If there's
the world's scary right now, for sure.
Yeah, the world is definitely scary. And you know, that story that you mentioned, you know, you going to the church and everything, that was the Holy Spirit speaking to you all. And I know it's difficult to sometimes believe. I know it's difficult to trust. And being with our children as they're in pain for hours, it's easy for us to question. It's easy for us to maybe not believe at that point. And one thing that I learned, at least in my experience, is even though Mia left and Bentley left, the miracle happened. They're healed. They
Yes.
have no more pain. You know, they're not going through what they were going down here, which a lot of the times it would hurt us a lot more. And you know what? Right now, when you touched on something, I remember Mia's mom one day telling the doctor, "I'll give you everything I have. You know, I just got a new car. I'll give you everything I have. Just do something to save my baby."
Yeah.
And that is what you said. And we would be willing to do anything and give anything to be able to save our children from this horrible thing called cancer. But you know, unfortunately, like you said, this world is bad, and it's rough, and we see it in the news. At the times, I don't even like to see the news anymore because it's just one bad news after another. But yeah, that's the way I see it, and you know, that our children are healed, and you're right, Matt. We will see our children again. We will, and that is a promise that God has made to us. You know, if we remain faithful. So just thank you both for sharing that, you know, that part. And also before we leave, I do, Matt, it's difficult for dads to show, or I don't know, it's I guess people see that, you know, that dads grieve differently, but we're involved as well, you know, and it's difficult. And you know, you were there by your boy's side every single second, and you know, you saw firsthand how this is, and these are our children, you know. And thankfully you were there, and you were both there, and you know, having mom and dad fight with them and the entire family and your community, you know, like you said, you're where you're all from, they all came together and fought for, you know, alongside with him. That is great. Just what would you all tell, and this is what I ask every parent that you know, does this, what would you, having gone through what you've gone through, what will you tell parents that are going through the same thing? And what will you tell parents that have perfectly healthy children?
Well, I can tell you one thing. When we were on our way down to Memphis, we met a guy at the mall, and he saw Bentley's scar on the back of his head, so he knew what was going on. And he came to us and offered his advice, and he said that he had a child that had a brain tumor that had passed away. It was a little boy, and you know, a great guy. He
amazing guy.
Sat there and talked to us in the mall for about a half hour, and he said a couple of things that I'll never forget. And one was, you know, enjoy every day with your kid, because you never know if it could end, you know. that's one thing I can say. That's some advice that I took, was to enjoy every single moment with him and never take anything for granted. And it made us a lot closer together. You know, I am fortunate enough that I was able to take a couple months off of work without losing my job, you know, and spent a lot of quality time with him, and we became best friends.
Oh, best friends.
To anybody that's dealing with that, you know, I would give that advice, to make sure to enjoy every moment. And, you know, with a kid, you don't want to be sad and depressed in front of them and make them that way too. You want to be happy and do whatever you can. You know, we took Bentley everywhere we could take him and just had a lot of fun while he was still here. As far as parents with healthy kids, I can tell you that I get upset a lot about seeing people in Walmart being mean to their kids and yelling at their kids. And I've heard people at work saying that, you know, their kids are terrible and they wish they wouldn't have had them and whatnot. And man, I can't take it. It drives me crazy.
Yeah, a lot of parents, you need to have gratitude. You really do. Like, I remember I was tired and frustrated. It was late at night, and I still had to pack my husband's lunch and Brooklyn's lunch and Bentley's lunch when he was, you know, after his surgery and everything was good. And I was angry for a second. I was like, oh, I can't believe I have to pack these 3 lunches. And then I was like, wait, I should be happy I get to pack these 3 lunches. I have 3 people that I love more than anything, and I get to pack their lunch. So many parents, they don't take their kids for granted, but they need to realize, like, my kid's healthy and we're going to be fine. And
it taught us not to get worked up over the little
things.
Life,
you know, don't stress so much about your bills or your house being perfect and this and that, and
just be thankful for what you have, and that you have healthy children.
Exactly. Just embrace your kid and love them for who they are and what they can give, and just treat them right, because they are such a gift. I mean, they are truly a gift from God. And parents that are struggling, yeah, the baby's crying. The baby woke up. Find an outlet. Find someone to talk to. There's so many people out there that can, we have so many resources now online, and so many people that we can talk to and help us through that. And that has helped me a lot. I have so many St. Jude friends that, we just went to the beach together. Mm-hmm. And their sons are fine. They had brain cancer too, and they're doing fine. But they're always cheering me up, and they're like, "It's not fair. It's not fair that Bentley's not here with our kids right now." But just try to not do it alone. Seek out for help. Talk to people. It helps a lot. It really does.
Yeah, it does. And one thing that, as Matt was pointing out right now, sometimes at work or just anywhere else, when people say, "Oh my God," well, not right now because of the whole COVID, but I have to go sit, oh, what time is it? I have to go sit through a boring soccer practice. I have to go sit through a boring dance class. And that would upset me so much. I would say, you don't know how bad I would love to sit through a boring dance class and still have my daughter here. Like you said, we have to appreciate what God has given us right now. Do you guys have a nonprofit organization yourselves, or do you guys work with any, or are you guys involved with any of them?
One in Oakland called Cindy's Fund that helped us unbelievably. They
paid for all my plane tickets to go to St. Jude with my son.
Hotel rooms on the way.
Hotel rooms, gas money. They did so, and they're constantly helping. Not just children, but everyone in this town with cancer. They will help with everything. They've paid bills. They're just Cindy's Fund is amazing.
Yeah, they helped us. We had a spaghetti dinner in Oakland, and it ended up becoming a lot more than that. There was like a small parade there. There was a bunch of Disney characters.
Yeah.
They had a band there. It was a whole big town event.
Bouncy houses.
Pretty much shut down part of the town for the day. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cindy's Fund out of Oakland.
Cindy's Fund, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all. Thank you. And just before we finish this, any last words from you all?
I'm so glad we met, and I'm so glad you're doing this and you stick with this. If you need any help, let me know. I'll do whatever I can. And I'm just proud of you. And we all have to stick together. We really do.
Yeah, thank you.
And thanks for having us.
No, of course. Again, I tell people, this is a family that we are a part of. We did not ask to be, and we did not even want to be a part of this family, but we're here and we have to help each other out. I want to build this community. I want to build this family. And as I mentioned on last week's episode, it's kind of cool that parents that have been on these episodes are actually talking with each other, working with each other, and helping each other out. So that is exactly what I want to do. And I don't know where God's going to take this channel, but we're going to make a voice. We're going to make a difference, because this 4% is nothing for our children. So
not enough.
It's not. Yeah, it's not enough. So thank you all for sharing that. The organization that you all told me about, I'm going to go ahead and just send me the link, and I'll go ahead and post that. So again, Matt and Brandi, I just want to thank you all very, very much for doing this, for accepting to be a part of this. And I want to thank everybody once again for tuning into this week's episode of the Gold Corner. I am going to be putting the description of the nonprofit organization that they just talked about. That'll be here in the description. The link will be on the description. I'm also going to be tagging Brandi, and if you have also social media, Matt, if you don't,
Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay.
Instagram, Twitter, but not Facebook now.
Perfect. I'll go ahead and be putting their information on here. If you need any more information on this organization, or even if you want to reach out to them, I know I have a lot of parents.
If anyone wants to reach out, I'm always here to talk, always. And I'm a great listener.
There you go. And sometimes we need that. So, they'll be willing, to be able to speak to you. They'll be able to hear you out. Any, even words of encouragement. If you have any questions, if you want anything, I'm going to be tagging them, and you can actually reach out to them. So thank you all very, very much again for this, for tuning in. And as I mentioned, every week our audience keeps growing. So we need to make these stories viral. We need to speak about our warriors, continue speaking about our warriors, and raise awareness for childhood cancer that is not rare. So once again, thank you all very, very much. And as I tell you all every week, just remember to love a little harder, love your family more, and just to live each day to its fullest, because tomorrow is not promised. So again, all the information on Brandi and Matt and the organization is going to be in the description. And again, if you hit the little bell icon, it'll alert you every time that we do upload a video. And if you subscribe, it helps us, because it's letting YouTube know that we are speaking about this certain subject, and it's going to be able to promote it that much more. So thank you all very much, and we'll see you all next week. God bless you guys.